What's up, Silver and Black Nation? The Bat Fry, Kenny Fry here from the Silver and Black Lair, letting you know what's coming up on the show here today. I'll be talking the LA Kings coaching search. I have a couple of candidates who I ultimately think is going to end up getting a job. We'll take a look at Kings re-signing an unrestricted free agent from the roster. And also, I'll take a look at the Ontario Reigns first game from their Western Finals and how that went. And then we'll go ahead and take a look at the Stanley Cup playoffs. All that and much, much more. So stay tuned. I will be back in about 1 minute. What's up, Silver and Black Nation? Welcome to the Silver and Black Lair LA Kings edition. I'm your host, the Bat Fry, Kenny Fry, and welcome to Thirsty Thursday, right? All right. One step closer to that weekend that we've all been striving for and hoping for is when is this weekend going to be here? It's almost here. All right. So let's kick the show off. I'm going to talk a couple candidates that I have in my mind anyway, just looking through, all sorts of Google searches and stuff like that. A couple of guys that, make sense. I don't know. I'm not a hockey guru. I love watching the Kings play. I enjoy watching playoff hockey. I enjoy watching hockey, period. But I'm not going to pretend to know the ins and outs of hockey or every name that goes by, especially coaches. But these are a couple names that kind of intrigue me. One, it seems like every team's going for. Another one could be a dark horse candidate, and then there's another one who I think will get the job for one reason or another, which I will discuss and go from there. All right. So first off, first candidate is somebody that pretty much is out there, is linked to a bunch of different teams. He's met with a bunch of different teams already, like the Senators, the Maple Leafs, and teams like that. And that's Craig Berube. His name came up so much when the Kings fired Todd McClellan, and it made sense back then. You kind of almost like try to recreate that magic that the St. Louis Blues had with Berube when they hired him halfway through the season to take over their franchise after they fired their coach, who I do not remember who it was, but I do remember Berube being hired as the interim head coach for the St. Louis Blues after their existing coach was fired. They were in last place. I believe they had the worst record in the league at that point. And after that point, the team played great. He got them playing great. And, they were able to make the playoffs. I think they came in as an 8 seed. I could be wrong there. And I believe that's how at that time the NHL was doing it. They were seeding 1 through 8 instead of the way they do it right now, which is not my favorite way. I'd rather the NHL go back to seeding 1 through 8. I think that makes more sense. And they want to develop rivalries and stuff, but you have a couple teams that are decent, but not the best in their division. They're going to end up playing each other every year, a la LA Kings and Edmonton Oilers. 3 years in a row we got that. And you got obviously the reason I'm not happy about it is because 3 years in a row they kicked our asses. So we don't want that anymore. Just go back to 1 through 8. Anyway, with that being said, Berube was able to take them all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. They won the Stanley Cup, and magical season, and the rest was history from there. Well, the St. Louis Blues fired him this year halfway through the season after starting 13-14-1, and they went in a different direction. So Berube was out there when Todd McClellan was fired. Name was out there, was floated out there. Ultimately went with Jim Hiller, and the rest was history from there. So Berube won the Stanley Cup back in 19. He has an overall record with St. Louis at 206 wins, 131 losses, and 44 overtime losses. His entire coaching career, he's coached. He was the head coach for St. Louis and for Philadelphia. His record with both teams combined is 281 wins, 190 losses, and 72 overtime losses. So Berube, like I said, is on a lot of teams' lists. This is like a wish and a prayer kind of thing. I think most Kings fans would say, this is the guy that we want. But things being the way they are right now in LA with the GM, Rob Blake being brought back, and this is his final year of his contract. It's been brought up on other podcasts. Why would any bigger name coach want to go into that situation? You'd probably look for a coach maybe that's just looking for a shot at it to kind of prove himself or something like that and go from there. Because more than likely, unless something drastic happens next season, there's going to be a new general manager in La La Land, right? So, why would any established coach want to go into that situation where, there's the potential where you get a new GM in, that GM wants their coach, or that GM, doesn't mesh well with the existing coach, and they're button heads constantly or whatever. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that at all. So that's Craig Berube. That's like a wish and a prayer. Probably not going to happen. Dean Evanson. Now, this is a name I just heard actually today while listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, which I enjoy with Eddie. Dean Evanson. He was let go from Minnesota after a 5-10-4 start. I really like Minnesota. I thought Minnesota had a really nice, tough team. Just avoiding some talent in some areas, but they're tough. The Kings played them. The Kings played them a couple times this year. It was never an easy win. There was the one game I think the Kings won 6-0. But besides the other few games, it was tight. And he actually had whoever the coach was that took over for Dean actually had the Minnesota Wild in wild card contention. Then they kind of dropped off after that 6-0 shutout against the Kings. But anyway, Dean Evanson, like I said, 5-10-4 with the Minnesota Wild this year before being let go. His overall coaching career, though, has been really, really good. 147 wins, 77 losses, 27 overtime losses, a 639 points win percentage. And I guess the one bugaboo with him, from everything I've read, is his playoff record is not so good. Something like I think 5-15 or something like that. It was not good at all. So take that for what you will. It is what it is. But that's somebody that doesn't quite have the resume as a Craig Berube. He's you look at that record, he is somewhat of an established coach, but maybe not established as much. Where he would be willing to take on a job like the LA Kings, knowing where the GM is sitting and they're the Kings type of roster where you have a couple veterans, who are not looking to rebuild, and you have a whole bunch of young guys, some young guys down bottom. Kings are in salary cap hell right now, so it's not really no room to really wiggle. So you're going to be bringing a lot of young guys up to fill voids. Is he going to want to do that? And also the Pierre-Luc Dubois situation. What can we get out of him? And would Dean Evanson be any good for PLD? You have to look at Pierre-Luc Dubois and figure out, is this going to help him? Because 8 years, $80+ million a year. That's a big one right there. You want that guy to work. You want him to do well. Because from everything we've been hearing, the Kings are not going to buy that contract out. So, and I heard an interesting thing. And again, this comes from I think the Locked On Kings podcast, where I love listening to that show. Like I said, I really enjoy it. So a lot of stuff that I spew on here, I hear there, and really makes me interested. Kind of piques my interest. But so the Kings have until I think it's June 24th to decide if they want to buy out Pierre-Luc Dubois' contract at a third of the cost, and that would be his 26th birthday. That's his 26th birthday. Well, they can't make that decision until the season's wrapped up. And the last day, if the Stanley Cup Finals go a full 7 games, that seventh game is on that day. So it's like the holy Christmas. What do you guys? If you wanted to buy him out, you couldn't buy him out probably if it went 7 games. So you're there hoping that it ends in game 6 or before. But I mean, like what a shit show that would be. Oh yeah, we want to buy him out, but it goes 7 games and you're screwed anyway. But after the season, his 26-year-old season, they can still buy him out, but the cost rises drastically. It rises up to I believe 2/3 of his contract instead of 1/3 before his 26th birthday. So interesting stuff there. But yeah, I don't think Dean Everson will get the job. That's just a name that I heard, and after reading up on him a little bit, kind of piqued my interest a little bit. But Jim Hiller, I think Jim Hiller is going to be your head coach. It just makes sense. Bring him back. 1-year contract or whatever. Excuse me, 1-year contract. Match it up with Blake and see what happens. Give him the full off season. Let him have say in roster moves, and let him create the lines the way he wants, the way he sees the lines. Let him work with Pierre-Luc Dubois. When the coaching change happened between McClellan and Jim Hiller, PLD, he came out in the second half after the All-Star break like he was shot out of a cannon. He was playing really well. And you come like, all right, here we go. We got PLD on board here. It looks like he started to turn things around. Well, then it went down the crapper again. And then Hiller moved him everywhere, which way and that. Tried to give him a decent line combination, in my opinion, anyway. And it just wasn't working out. So give Hiller a full off season with PLD. Work with him, get to know him better, and see how he can help him. And I'd imagine going into next season, we would see probably Philip Denault probably drop down to a third line center, and PLD jumping up to second line center just to see if we can get him kickstarted anyway. I love Philly D. I really love Philly D. Philip Denault with Trevor Moore, Victor Arvidsson was awesome at the end of the season there. But like I said, Victor Arvidsson being an unrestricted free agent, not really sure if we're going to bring him back, especially with his injury history. Would it make sense to even bring him back? I'm not really sure. And we love our Kings fans. They love Arvy. They love Arvidsson. So it's gonna be a bummer to see him go if he does go. But that's a business. That's the way things crumble. So Hiller, since he took over for the Kings, he was 21, 12-1. He was tasked. When the move was made to Jim Hiller, Rob Blake said, he tasked Jim Hiller with getting the Kings to the playoffs. And that's what Jim Hiller did. He got the Kings to the playoffs. He wasn't afraid to mix things up. Give him credit there. Whereas as Todd, you wouldn't see too many different line combinations or hey, let's try this today. Moving guys up and down the lines. You didn't see that with Todd. With Jim Hiller, it seemed like almost every night or every game or every other game, you were seeing different line combinations. Like, all right, let's move Byfield to the third line center. All right, let's move Pierre-Luc Dubois to the fourth line, back up to the third line. Let's have Lizotte on the third line. Having guys like Laferriere, on the top line with Kopitar and Kempe moving Byfield around, Fiala moving him around as well. So it's he wasn't afraid to try different things, which I like. And the one thing that I did hear was that Jim Hiller is also ran his own analytics company. So the dude is into the numbers. He knows what he's talking about. He's not afraid to dig into the weeds a little bit. So that's good. I think that's a good thing with a coach. So I think that's probably the route we're going to go. I could see Jim Hiller, like I said, getting a year. Rob Blake has a year left, and if it doesn't work out, well, then we're looking for a new GM who's going to be looking for a new coach anyway, probably. So, president-wise, Luc Robitaille. I don't hear much about Luc Robitaille. Is he on the hot seat? I don't know. I don't know what his contract looks like either. As I believe he's the president of hockey operations, I believe. So, but yeah, it's the Rob Lake, and I believe it's going to be Jim Hiller. I think that'll be the Rob Lake and Jim Hiller show. And I haven't heard about the Kings interviewing anybody else. But I'm pretty sure they had Hiller in for an interview. Obviously, he's already in house as your interim head coach. So I assume they already talked to him. All right. So moving on from that, the Kings did re-sign a player who I thought they should re-sign. That was an unrestricted free agent, and that is Big Save Dave Rittich, goalie. He's their backup goalie this season, and we had 3 goalies as UFAs, unrestricted free agents. Cam Talbot, David Rittich, and Phoenix Copley. And Phoenix Copley coming off that major leg injury, with surgery and stuff like that. I'm not even sure what it was. If it was a knee, I think it was a knee or groin, but I'm pretty sure it was a knee. So you're not really sure what you're going to get out of Phoenix Copley anyway. And if you do decide to re-sign Phoenix Copley, I'd imagine you probably start down in the minors. The whole bunch of rehab assignments, working towards what he was before the injury. So then you come to Cam Talbot, who is, I think, 37 years old, and David Rittich, 31 years old. I mean, if you ask me, I would go with Rittich just based off of age. Cam Talbot had a terrific season for the Kings, their only All-Star. But when it came to nuts, they're in the playoffs, he didn't perform. His fault or not, goalies are such a huge part in the playoffs. They have to come up big, and we've seen some great goalie play from other teams in the playoffs, and it just didn't happen for Cam Talbot. David Rittich, he did get some time in the playoffs. He got 2 starts. One game was pretty good. He didn't face a whole lot of shots, but in the other game, came up with some big saves, but in the end, just wasn't good enough. Gave up too many goals, 4 goals, and it is what it is. So the regular season, he was 13-6-3, 2.16 goals against average, and a .921 save percentage. Outstanding numbers, also with 3 shutouts. But a lot of the times, you've seen him face the Sharks a bunch of times. I did have a shutout against the Oilers, 4-0 after the All-Star break. I do remember that. That was the beginning of the Jim Hiller era. So, again, 13-6-3, 216, 921. Is that because of the competition he was mostly going against? I'm not sure. I'm not really sure. But I'd like to see David Rittich, maybe in a more prominent role to start the season. I still think the Kings should call up Eric Portillo. He's doing a great job for the Ontario Reign during the Calder Cup playoffs. Right now, the Reign are in the Western Finals, and I'll talk about that in a second. I'll recap their game 1 coming up after I talk about David Rittich here. So I do think they should bring up Eric Portillo, and if they do, I think that David Rittich should start the season off. This is all based on preseason work as well. But I could see a world in where David Rittich starts as your starting goalie, and then after maybe a month into the season, Portillo got his feet wet. Maybe kind of flip flop that, let Portillo take the reins, and Rittich move back to the backup role, and go from there. Unless he's lights out, then you don't mess with it. You let David Rittich keep doing David Rittich things. But if he's just pedestrian, just average, obviously give the younger guy a shot, see what you got there, and hope for the best. So yeah, Rittich coming back to the Kings. Like I thought he was going to last week. I said if they sign one goalie, I believe it's going to be Rittich, and there you have it. All right. So moving on from that, the Ontario Reign, they've been undefeated so far in the Calder Cup playoffs. They come to game 1 against Coachella Valley Firebirds, and they lose 3-2. And I listened to the game a little bit, and in my opinion, and also the announcers' opinions, the play-by-play guy and the color guy, the Ontario Reign were the better team. Just a couple rushes by the Coachella Valley Firebirds that caught the Reign off guard or in transition, and And there it was, a couple mistakes, and that's all it took. The Reign outshot Coachella Valley 31-15. They outshot them 14-4 in the third period. So in the third period alone, they had quite a few chances. There was an open net opportunity for, I don't remember who it was. Was it yeah, I don't know if it was Andre Lee. I feel like it was Andre Lee, but I could be wrong. And hit the post. So you can't miss those opportunities, especially you're in the Western Final. This is the best of the best right now, and I want the Ontario Reign to win. I want the Hershey Bears to win. So the Ontario Reign come out to Hershey to play, and I can go see the Ontario Reign, wear my Kings jersey, and bang on the glass and say, "Go Reign, go!" Anyway, so looking at the scoring. Andre Lee kicked off the scoring for the Ontario Reign. That's his fourth of the playoffs, assisted by Tyler Ward and Samuel Hellenius. Coachella Valley then scored 2 goals to rebut our goal. 2 goals in a minute and 2 seconds, and those quick, bam, bam like that. And it's just a couple of rushes, and they caught the Reign on their heels. Basically that's what it came down to. They added another one in the second, and then the Reign kind of settled down a little bit. At the end of the second period, they got back-to-back. Coachella Valley was called for back-to-back penalties, so they had a 5-on-3 going into the third period. The one penalty expires. They still had a 5-on-4. They end up scoring on that 5-on-4. Samuel Fogimo, who was up with the Kings for a few games this season, he scores his second goal of the playoffs to make it 3-2, as assisted by TJ Tynan and Akil Thomas, who was also up with the Kings for a little bit. I didn't expect some of these guys to be up with the Kings next season full time, but that'll be we'll have to wait and see what happens. So yeah, that's your final 3-2. Like I said, the Reign, a ton of shots in the third period, had some opportunities, but just couldn't knock it in. So hopefully they bounce back against Coachella Valley. I believe they play again Friday. I could be wrong about that, but I think it's Friday they play again in at Coachella Valley. So that's where that's at. Come on, Reign, you got to win. I want to go see the hockey game. I want to go see the Calder Cup championships, and in Hershey, and the Bears. I think the Bears are a 1 seed in the Eastern Final, and I think that kicks off for them tonight. But I could be wrong about that. I should have checked on it, but I didn't. All right, so that's what I have for the Kings. I'm going to move on to the Stanley Cup playoffs here. I'm going to go ahead and switch the backdrop so I look professional. My boy Paul hooked me up with some pretty sweet overlays here. Let me bump that. Beautiful. Look at that. Good stuff right there. Beautiful stuff. All right. Stanley Cup finals. Or not finals. Stanley Cup playoffs here. We're in the semifinals for each bracket, for the East and for the West. Dallas, Colorado, Vancouver, Edmonton, Florida, Boston, Rangers, and Carolina. I gave my predictions last week. I don't remember all of them. I do believe I had the Avalanche winning, the Oilers winning. I feel like I had Florida winning and the Rangers winning. So I believe I had the Avalanche against the Rangers in the finals, and I had the Rangers winning. I believe that's what I had. All right, so let's kick this off. Dallas versus the Avalanche. Dallas is up 3-2. I got a comment here real quick before I move on. We got our boy, Adam the Answer Glenn, saying go Phillies. Suck it, Adam Glenn. Suck it hard. Again, Mets, not to get too far off the subject here, it is what it is. They're a 500 team to begin with. Phillies are the best team in baseball right now, playing like the best team in baseball. But I'm telling you right now, Adam Glenn, mark my words, if the Phillies play like they did yesterday against the Mets, if they play like that against the Dodgers, the Brewers, the Cubs, teams like that, the Braves, the Yankees, Orioles, the Guardians, they're going to get their asses kicked. The Phillies better play like the best team in baseball, not that shit show that was yesterday. I'll tell you what, both teams played like crap. Both teams looked like crap. say rain or not, whatever. It doesn't matter. Both teams looked really crappy yesterday. Phillies winning that game 10-5, winners of 3 in a row against the Mets here in a weird kind of series, 2 at home in New York and 2 in Philadelphia. So the one guy came over and handed me a broom at work last night. Lovely Philadelphia fans. I'm sure he'll listen to this podcast later on. Maybe he won't. He's not a big hockey fan, so maybe he won't listen to this. But a Philly guy, and he handed me a broom. I said, "What's this for?" And just handed it to me. Said, "I'll sweep later on." I knew right what he was saying. I knew what he was going for. I said, "Well, you're a day late anyway." I said, "If you're talking about a sweep, it would have been the day before because there's 2. It's 2 different series. The Phillies took the 2 in New York, so that's a sweep, and now they're going for a second sweep today. So I still have faith in the Mets, but it was ugly yesterday. It was ugly. And Adam, I thought you were a Joey Fuego fan. I thought you liked Joey Lucchesi. Poor Lucchesi. He started off well. Lucchesi started off well, but ran into some trouble. Get the broom out. The broom was already out, Adam. So you're behind. You don't even know what you're talking about either. 2 different series, home and away. So, I mean, technically, yes, they still get the broom out, but you're talking about 4 games in a row. There's 2 different series. They already had the broom out once. The Mets will win today. Oh, for the love of God. And I can't even celebrate. I can't even say, Philly fans, Mets won, because it's one out of the last 4. I can't celebrate that. The one thing I will say before I get back to the Stanley Cup playoffs here, the one thing I will say about this is I was talking to one guy at work who came over, and every day this past week since the Mets have been playing the Phillies, he come up to me and say, F the Mets, and then walk away laughing. I appreciate that. That's these nice Philly fans I telling you about. When the Mets win, I do not go over to the Phillies fan and say Phillies suck or F the Phillies or the Philly fanatic is sleeping with a raccoon. I don't say any of that stuff. But anyway, I take it. It is what it is. And but anyway, I said to him, I don't know if it was the same guy or not. It might have been somebody else. But I did say this reminds me a little bit of no, it actually was a different guy. It reminds me a little bit of the 2022 season, where the Mets, were the best team in baseball for a large portion of the season before they weren't, and the Phillies were hovering around 500 for most of the season until they weren't. The end of that season, the Mets are out in the first round, and the Phillies are in the World Series. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen this year. I'm not going to say, Phillies are going to stumble near the end of the season, be knocked out in the first round. The Mets are going to, hover around 500, then all of a sudden get hot at the end of the season and go to the World Series. I'm not saying that at all. The rosters are constructed completely different, but it reminds me of that a lot because back in that 2022 season, the Mets absolutely throttled the Phillies, owned the Phillies in 2022. And it didn't matter because, again, Phillies went to the World Series and lost, and the Mets got their asses kicked by the Padres. All right. Another comment. It's not a 4-game sweep, Adam. It's 2-2. So just so you're aware of that, buddy. They're in New York for 2. That ends the series after 2. Now they're in Philadelphia for 2. That's a totally different series. You could say 4 games in a row, but it's not a 4-game sweep. All right. Dallas versus Avalanche. Dallas is up in this series 3-2. Game 1 went to the Avs 4-3 in overtime. Game 2 went to the Dallas 5-3. Game 3 went to Dallas 4-1. Game 4 went to Dallas 5-1. And Game 5, I believe was last night, went to the Avalanche 5-3. And Dallas there for those games 3 and 4 looked awesome. They looked awesome. They looked like the best team in hockey, which, for the whole second half of the season, you could make the argument that Dallas was the best team in hockey. Between them and the Rangers, Dallas was awesome, pretty much for the whole second half of the season. So looking at this right now, you have the 2 big names are in that, Edinger for Dallas and Georgiev for the Avalanche. Georgiev's been struggling a little bit, and Edinger was playing well. Those 3 games in the middle, 5-3 Dallas, 4-1 Dallas, 5-1 Dallas. Edinger's was awesome in those games. 20 plus saves in game 3, 20 plus saves in game 4, only allowing 1 goal in each of those games. Looked outstanding. But then you roll it back to last night, losing 5-3, giving up 4 goals, and kind of came back down to earth a little bit. Georgiev made the saves that he had to make. Dallas is just all over him. Dallas, I didn't see last night's game, but I watched games 3 and 4. I watched those games. I think it was 3 and 4. It was 2 and 3. Dallas was just constantly in the Avalanche zone, shot after shot after shot. And Georgiev made some outstanding saves, but there's only so much that he can do. He did allow a lot of rebounds, in my opinion. And, maybe that's part of the issue, but there's only so much he can do. And, they need more offense out of Avalanche, some more sustained time in the O-zone and just keeping a little bit more heat off Georgiev. So we'll see what happens there, but it's a series now, 3-2 going to game 6. We'll see what happens from there. For the Avalanche, McKinnon, Makar, Rantanen, and Lehkonen have been playing pretty well. For Dallas, Heiskanen, Robertson, and Hintz, they've been playing well. So, really good series. It's 2 really good teams, probably the 2 top teams in the West. If you really break it down top to bottom, Vancouver's a decent team. Edmonton's a really good team, but Edmonton's really top heavy with talent. Vancouver, I think Vancouver played above their heads this season, and I think Dallas and Avalanche, I think those 2 are the class of the West right now, and just so happens they're going against each other. So moving on to the Vancouver-Edmonton series. That series is tied 2-2. They play tonight. Game 1 went 5-4 to Vancouver, surprisingly. Game 2 went to Edmonton 4-3. Game 3 went to Vancouver 4-3. And then Game 4 went to Edmonton 3-2. So a couple things to look at here is that Edmonton power play and the Vancouver power play, or you want to say Edmonton power play penalty kill, because the Edmonton penalty kill coming into the series was outstanding. I think they held the Kings, what was it? 0 for 12 on the power play, or 0 for 15 or something. It was something crazy. So they come into the series without allowing a power play goal in the first series, and they start off game 1 holding Vancouver to 0-3 on the power play, and game 2. 1 for 3. So you look at that right there, 1 for 6, and you add that to what they did for the Kings, like 1 for 20 or something like that. Edmonton's power play or penalty kill was looking awesome. But then they allowed 2 power play goals in that 4-3 loss in game 3. They kind of came back down to earth a little bit, but then they bounced back, that penalty kill team unit for Edmonton, and they held Vancouver 0 for 3 on the power play in game 4. Now looking at that Edmonton power play, which was like 45%, 46% against the Kings. Game 1, they were 1 for 1 on the power play. Game 2, 1 for 3. Game 3, 2 for 4. And game 4, 1 for 2. So it's hovering around that 50% mark. They're 5 for 10 on the power play, 50%. And the Vancouver Canucks are 3 for 12 on the power play at 25%, which is about average, about normal. That's a normal number. 50%, that's not a normal number. So special teams for Edmonton doing the job, getting the job done in the power play, penalty kill doing decent. One bad game for the penalty kill unit for Edmonton, and that was it. Out of all these games so far, 5 games against the Kings, and so far 4 against the Canucks. Another thing to note. The Oilers went with a goalie change as well. They pulled Stuart Skinner after game 3, I believe, and they went to Cal Picard in game 4. And I thought he played well in game 4. I was able to watch some of that game, and I thought he looked good. He made some huge saves down the stretch there to hold that lead, and he did good. So I assume they're probably going to continue with Pickard in the next game. I don't know why you'd want to go back with Stuart Skinner, who was, as a Kings fan going into that playoff series, Kings versus the Oilers, we were all saying that Skinner is their weak link, and he came up big against the Kings. So he showed us. I guess he shut our asses up. I don't know. Uh, so they have Cal Pickard in net now. Uh, for the Canucks, Zadorov is playing well. Baser's playing well. But Pedersen's just he's non-existent. All season long, Pedersen's played great, but in these playoffs, even round one, uh, absent. So I don't know what's going on. Pedersen, if they want any chance at beating Edmonton and continuing on through the Western Finals, Pedersen's going to have to step it up. He's been a zero factor in these playoffs so far. From the first round to the second round. So I hope Pedersen plays better. I want to see Vancouver advance. The hell with Edmonton. Screw Edmonton. That's what I say. All right, so moving on to the Eastern Conference playoffs here. Boston, Florida. Florida's up in this series 3-2. Game 1 went 5-1 to Boston. Game 2, 6-1 Florida. Game 3, 6-2 Florida. Game 4, 3-2 Florida. And Game 5, 2-1 Boston. I think it was Game 1 where you had all those penalty minutes kind of set the tone for the series. I think it was Game 1. And kind of set the tone. And Florida, the next 3 games were outstanding. Were absolutely outstanding. 6-1, 6-2. You can't ask for much better offense than that. Goaltending, doing very well. Game 4, 3-2, a little bit closer. Game 5, Swayman was always for Boston was absolutely on his game in Game 5. He looked outstanding. It's an interesting thing that they got going on there in Boston with their goalies. Ullmark, he's a very good goalie, and then Swayman, it's like who do you go with? Swayman was struggling a little bit there in the beginning, so they went back to Ullmark. Well, Ullmark is still struggling, so they went back to Swayman. Now Swayman figured it out, playing much better. So I guess you stick with Swayman, I assume. And that's what it seems like. That's what they're probably going to go with. Swayman's the whole playoff so far. In round 1, he played well through those 7 games against Toronto. He did a good job. Came up big in those games in that series. So I would think they would stick with Swayman. But again, Ullmark is a good goalie, but for some reason it seems like he's been struggling in the playoffs. Pasternak, he's playing well for Boston. Boston, I guess that's how you say it. And for the Panthers, Barkov, Reinhart, and Tkachuk, all those guys have been playing well. So a really good series. I expect that series to go 7 games. Here's one series I do expect to end tonight. Rangers, Hurricane. I almost said Panthers. Rangers, Hurricanes. I expect this to end tonight at 7 o'clock game. Game 1 was 4-3 Rangers. Game 2 was 4-3 Rangers. Game 3 was 3-2 Rangers in overtime. Game 4 was 4-3 Carolina. And Game 5 was 4-1 Carolina. I got to see a little bit of the early games, the Game 1 and Game 2, but I haven't seen anything really since then. So I can't really speak on it too much. Rangers looked fantastic early on the first couple games. They looked really, really well. Obviously, the last couple games, they kind of stumbled a little bit. But I do expect them to get back on track. Igor's been outstanding, absolutely outstanding this playoffs. From round 1, the sweep of Washington to round 2 here, even with those couple losses, he's been outstanding. Igor with a 2.76 goals against and a .920 save percentage, which is great. Lafreniere, I always struggle with that name. He's been playing good. Panarin, Zibanejad, he's been playing really well as well, and so has Trocheck. For Carolina, they've been struggling on the power play. Just going back and looking at that, just a lot of offers for Carolina in the power play. You got to give credit to the penalty kill for the Rangers as well. But they need guys like Aho and Gensel to really step it up on those power plays to if Carolina wants to stay alive and push for a Game 7. But I think that ends tonight. I think the Rangers win. I think the Rangers win 4-1. That's my prediction there, and they'll be the first team to advance in the playoffs. So the other game is the I think Vancouver Edmonton. I think that's the other game tonight, the late game, and I think I'm going to predict. I think Edmonton wins that game. I think the Stars come out. I think you're going to see Connor McDavid, who's been relatively quiet, he's been quiet so far against Vancouver, but I think he's going to bust out. He's going to have a good game to give the Oilers the advantage in that series. And I think Cal Picard's going to do well enough for the win. I think that's going to be a 5-2 Edmonton win. I think Connor McDavid's going to have a couple goals and a couple assists in that game, and expect Nugent Hopkins to be involved, as well as Zach Hyman, who's been outstanding this playoff season so far. So that's my thoughts on the Stanley Cup's playoffs so far. A little bit of a breakdown there, in case you haven't been watching. Like I said, I haven't seen every game of these playoffs, but I've seen at least 2 games from every series so far. The playoff, you gotta love playoff hockey. It's fast, it's fierce. You know, every shot counts, every shot matters, every turnover matters, every face-off matters. You know, power plays, penalties, and some good stuff there. Some good stuff. You love playoff hockey. I love Olympic and playoff hockey. Nothing like it. All right. So before I check out here, before I tap out and go to bed, I'm gonna have a couple sponsors to read off here. You know, so you know who to buy stuff from and who to contact. We'll start off with Jason Fine, J Fine Law, attorney Big Al. You can reach Big Al at 1-800-HURT-123. That's 1-800-HURT-123. Jason Fine specializes in motor vehicle accidents, slip and fall, workman's comp, and personal injury claims. He has 3 office locations conveniently located throughout Pennsylvania and New Jersey. In Cherry Hill, New Jersey, the offices are located 3 Greensward Lane. The phone number there is 856-209-5258. In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the offices are located at 500 Grant Street, Suite 2900. The phone number there is 412-365-8151. And in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the offices are located 1628 JFK Boulevard, Suite 2120. The phone number there is 267-888-2980. That's Jason Fine, attorney Big Al. Head on over to monkeycoldcoffee.com for all your gourmet coffee needs. They have bourbon, chocolate chip infused coffee, toasted coconut rum. They have a Sumatran blend, medium roast coffee. They have an organic blend called Perula, Florida, and their latest flavor out there, Golden Honey Agave, and as which they are selling barrel-aged honey as well on their website at monkeycoldcoffee.com. Be sure to check out that swag shop. They got T-shirts, coffee mugs, tumbler cups, cold brew pitchers for all you iced coffee and cold brew coffee drinkers, K-cup adapters, and that sweet, sweet Paradise Rum Cake, plus much, much more at monkeycoldcoffee.com. And use that promo code OOTB Sports for 10% off your order. That promo code, once again, is OOTB Sports for 10% off your order at monkeycoldcoffee.com. Be sure to get into that boozy coffee. Like I said, that bourbon chocolate chip infused toasted coconut rum, out of this world. Love it. All right. And also, we got an announcement here, debuting May 27th, 8:30 p.m. That's a Monday. Inside the Octagon, UFC talk here on Out of the Box Sports. Our boy Paul Spencer with co-host Josh will be kicking this show off, like I said, May 27th, every Monday after that, 8:30 p.m. Facebook, YouTube, X. Be sure to check it out, like, follow, subscribe. Can't wait to hear this. All you combat sports fans, UFC fans, MMA fans, be sure to check that out and show them some love. Tomorrow night, Saturday night, be sure to check us out. 10 p.m., the Atomic Drop Podcast, talking WWE wrestling. So talking Raw, SmackDown, King and Queen, the King and Queen of the Ring tournaments going on. That's hard to say. And much, much more in the world of WWE wrestling. And also, tomorrow I will be live at 10 p.m. It says 10 a.m., but tomorrow it'll be 10 p.m. I have some stuff going on tomorrow morning. I have a little bit of a work function going on. Then the boys' preschool graduation, moving on to kindergarten. So I got a lot of stuff going on tomorrow. So I'll be doing the Silver and Black Lair Raiders edition tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern time. So mark that on your calendars right now so you don't forget. All right, so that's all I have for today. Be sure to follow, subscribe, Out of the Box Sports on Facebook, YouTube, and X. We're also on the TikTok and Instagram. Our handle on X is at OOTBox Sports. That's on X or Twitter. You can also reach me at, if I don't have it there, you see it up there on the screen. SB_Lair_OOTBE for my Twitter, or you can see it there. It says at the Bat Cave. That's my Bat Cave Twitter page, at the Bat Cave OOTBS. Or like I said, the Silver and Black Lair Twitter page is SB_Lair_OOTBE. And also check Out of the Box Sports on YouTube. They're at OOT Box Sports on YouTube, or just punch in Out of the Box Sports Entertainment. It'll pop up, black logo with red lettering, and that'll be us. And be sure to subscribe to that channel and like it and hit that notification bell. Appreciate it very, very much. Throw your comments out there anytime, and we will answer them the best we can. All right, so that's all I have for today. Thank you very much for joining me here on a Silver and Black Lair LA Kings edition. I will be back tomorrow night, 10 p.m. with the Silver and Black Lair Las Vegas Raiders edition, talking linebackers. I'll be talking the Raiders linebackers, and I will also be breaking down their schedule, talking a little bit of schedule talk there. Schedule was released yesterday, so a lot of fun there. We'll take a look at that and much, much more Raider talk. That's tomorrow. All right. Thank you, everybody, for checking the show out. Thank you for those that commented. Adam Glenn, you're the only one, buddy. That's all right. And like I said, thank you, everybody, for checking it out. I will see you guys next Thursday. Go Kings, go.